Today, we're going to talk about how to leverage sales experience, whether you're in corporate sales, you're an SDR, you're doing appointment setting, you're doing some sort of online closing, online sales, something like that, to becoming a real entrepreneur and owning your own business, owning your own offer. And we're going to talk about how that transition looks. I'm going to talk about my experience and exactly what I did to go from doing $39.7 million in outbound sales in 1 year and 9 months to now running my own business and my portfolio of companies. And I hate that I said portfolio of companies, but I have a few different businesses. So, what it realistically looks like. So, if you're an SDR, you're working in enterprise, you're working in corporate sales, whatever it is you may be doing, what ends up happening is you get something called golden handcuffs. And now, if you're familiar with what this is, golden handcuffs are basically it's when you are in a position where you're making great money and you start to upgrade your life, but if you were to leave, you would basically go broke and lose everything. Now, sales, if you know how to sell and you know how to sell really well, your worst case scenario is just simply going and getting another sales job. It's selling Mercedes Benzes for $150,000 a year. So once you know how to sell, you have the foundational ability to go out and do what it is that you need to do. And you're always going to know how to make money if you know how to pick up the phone, if you know how to send emails, if you know how to do outreach, if you know how to be calibrated. And if you're good at sales, you can really do anything in life. So if you don't want to sell, too bad. But what that transition looks like. So if you're in SDR, if you're in appointment setting, whatever it is you might be doing, you're probably in a place where you're making anywhere from 3,000 to, let's say, $10,000 a month. So what I've been seeing across this space over the past 3 years, especially the online sales space, is a lot of people, they'll get into appointment setting, they'll get into some sort of sales job, whether it's door to door, whether it's corporate, whether it's closing online, right? And what happens is they all have the same thing in common. No one wants to be a sales rep forever. And the reason why is because you get this syndrome of golden handcuffs. And as you get the golden handcuffs, you're going to have to figure out a way to leverage out of that, or you get stuck there forever. And so we're going to talk about here how to leverage out of that. And there's a few different ways because every single person, even myself, when I got started out in sales when I was 21 years old, I knew that I knew that sales was going to be the most transferable skill that anyone can ever develop in order to live a good life and know how to make money from using a phone basically for their entire life. So there's a few different ways to do that. And the first way is simply to not even do sales in the first place. A lot of people will ask me, oh, how do I transition out of this? Well, if you never put yourself in a position to transition out of sales and you simply just jump into the fire and try to start your own business, doesn't matter how old you are, you're probably going to learn more about everything faster than if you took years and years and years of your life learning how to sell working for a company. Now, number two is to go and do what I did, which was I knew that sales and I knew that getting this experience was going to be absolutely invaluable. I made probably 50 to 100,000 cold calls. I can't even tell you. And I knew that the faster I made those calls, the faster I had those conversations, and the faster that I got those deals closed and those customers moving forward, the faster I would learn how to use all of the information from every single industry that I worked with in my own process when I was to go and start my own business. And so when you learn a sales process or when you get started in sales, you have to get a clear idea of where you want to go after that, or you're going to be stuck there forever. So I want to give you some tips. When you're starting out a sales role, you need to be absolutely militant about how you operate in that sales role. And this was a mistake that I made very early on was I thought, oh, I could just get by and make calls and put up outbound dials and really work hard and then I'd just get by. But when you become absolutely fucking obsessed with the things that you're doing, and you become obsessed with your process, you become obsessed with how to get deals moving forward faster, how to go for larger deal sizes, how to upsell, how to downsell, how to carry on conversations, and how to follow up with different customers who aren't interested, what ends up happening is you become really, 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 really good at what it is that you do. And so you have to be 100%, 150% committed and obsessed with your process. So if you can sit there in a sales role and grind it out for 12 hours a day, for 10 hours a day, for 15 hours a day, and you're absolutely committed to your process and you understand what you do well, what you don't do well, what you need to improve on, and what's holding you back from improving on that, and you constantly go through that process, you have to be meticulous and militant about the way that you go about doing that. Once you start doing that, you're going to learn faster than everyone else. You're going to become better than everyone else, faster than everyone else, and you're going to make more money. So all of these skills, having hustle, knowing how to audit your process, knowing how to do well, knowing how to show up to work every day and give it 150%, knowing how to handle the emotional control that comes with being in sales. Because some months might be good, some months might be bad. One month you might be the best rep on your sales team, the next month you're at the bottom of the board. And so you have to know how to manage the emotional state and also come back from down months and know how to continue when you're on an uptrend. Know how to, when you hit quota, always push the envelope and always push past everything that you're doing because you know that you're going to be able to make more money. If you're in sales, you need to also understand that every single day you start at zero. And it's the same thing for when you're running your own business. It doesn't matter how much money you made the month before. It doesn't matter how much money you made the day before, the hour before, the fucking second before. Every single deal is a new deal. Every single deal is a brand new opportunity. And every single one is an opportunity to improve. And you have to be in a state of always wanting to win. You have to stay competitive, and you also have to seek constant improvement throughout your sales process in order to really get good. Now, sales changed my life because I learned all the things that I just said in this video. And so there was a point, and there's always going to be a point when you're in some sort of sales role or you're in some role where you're paid on your production, where you feel like you could be doing more and you could also be making more, you could be more successful, and you could be getting paid more doing it for yourself. And I remember one day I looked at how much money I made the company that I was working for. And I looked and I was in disbelief. And I realized that I could be wildly more successful if I simply just put in 60 to 70% of the effort that I was putting in on a daily basis for that company. And that's when I decided to leave. That's when I decided 6 months before I left that I was going to start doing side deals. I started a marketing agency, no clue what I was doing, and I figured it out because I knew that every single success that I'm ever going to have in business is going to be based on my ability to go out and acquire customers, to be a hunter. And if you know how to go out and hunt business, if you know how to acquire business, if you know how to get customers, if you know how to get meetings, if you know how to set meetings, if you know how to follow up and have the right conversations with people, you are never, ever, ever going to be broke. So that being said, that is the way that you transition out of the sales role. A lot of the time, most people get caught in the golden handcuffs. They get a BMW, they get a CLA Mercedes, they get an apartment they can't afford. They don't stack their money the right way. They don't do the right things with their money. They don't put together a war chest, a savings, a real savings. I'm not talking about a $10,000 savings, a $5,000 savings, a $20,000 savings. I'm talking about $70,000 to $100,000 in savings, because if you put together that war chest, then you know that you can take that money, you can live off that money for 1 to 2 years, and you can transition, and you have 1 to 2 years to figure out what it is that you actually want to do. And you can try business models as long as you don't do any crazy investments like gamble your whole life savings on the next new meme coin. You're probably going to be all right. So the way that I transitioned out was I looked at the split of money that I had saved, and I had about $120,000 to my name when I left. I had about $30,000, $40,000 in company stock. I had obviously money in my check. I think I had about 70, 80 grand in my checking account, and I had some crypto investments that I made, and things were going well. And I had some money coming in from the agency that I was running at the time, which is still my agency. It's just taken on a new form. So the way that you transition out of sales is you always have to be preparing for the inevitable if you know that you're meant to go and run your own business. Because if you're meant to go and run your own business and you feel a constant state of, I know that I can be better than what I'm doing now, then you're going to eventually have to go do that. As a man and as a young man, if you are not living on your purpose, it's very easy to get depressed. It's very easy to get sad. Now, I'm not talking clinically depressed. I'm talking about very sad in your situation and angry that you could be doing better than what you're currently doing. And so this is very, very important stuff. You need to be able to put that war chest together, and it has to be a fair bit of money. I always say 1 to 2 years of living expenses, because it might take you a little bit longer than the next guy to start your own business and to transition out of this or move to a new city like I did when I left. I took everything I owned from Philly and I moved across the country. I moved to Los Angeles. And I remember building my entire business originally from a folding chair in my bedroom. And that was just what I did. And I sat there and I treated it like my old sales job. I remember sending Instagram voice DMs to get clients. I remember sending hundreds of emails a day. And I remember figuring it out. Because if you put your back up against the wall as you transition out, if you kind of burn the ships and you just put your back up against the wall and you don't actively seek new opportunities, you put all the pressure on yourself. And that pressure, I mean, you've probably heard that pressure makes diamonds, but that pressure is going to force you to become successful, truly successful, not 100 grand a year successful, 200 grand a year successful. We're talking 400, 500, 600, 700 grand a year, $1.2 million a year, 1.8, 2, 3, 4, $5 million. So keep these ideas in mind, because this is something that I get asked a lot, right? What business model do I start? How do I transition out of this? You have to go into it knowing that eventually you're going to leave. Because if you know that you're going to leave, you can start to build your exit strategy and then reverse engineer from there. Look at the lifestyle you want to live, how much it costs. Look at the business models that you can start that don't require $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 to invest in. And then sit there and think, okay, well, what is the lowest? And this is what I did. I sat there and I thought, what is the lowest barrier to entry business model that I can start? What markets do I know? And how can I develop a sales strategy and an acquisition strategy for clients and customers in this marketplace? And that is exactly what I did. I took all of my industry experience that I had. And when I was selling to small businesses, I worked with construction companies. I worked with payroll processing companies doing $20, $30 million a month. I worked with mom and pop shops that were doing $5,000, $10,000 a month. I worked with people doing 50, 100K a month. I remember this one time there was this guy who I found out he was running an Amazon store and he was doing 450,000. He was my age and he was doing $450,000 a month selling Pokemon cards on Amazon. I think that was like one of the big times where I was like, holy shit, I'm in the wrong business. And it's not something that you do overnight. This transition is not something that happens overnight. What happens is you eventually have to figure out a path of what it is that you want to do, how you want to move forward, whatever that might be for you, whatever kind of things that you're interested in. And then figure out a path to acquiring customers, selling, because you're always going to be selling, and just taking all that sales experience that you learned and that you got really good at, those training grounds, if you will, in your corporate job or your appointment setting role or your closing role or your enterprise sales role. That's your training ground. And that will give you all of the experience that you're ever going to need to go out into the world, run your own business, and do what it is that you truly want to do.